If your doubles look and sound like this, then this is not good. But not to worry, because I'm gonna help you fix this today, so stick with me. If you're stuck here, your doubles are stiff, uneven, and pretty much useless if we're honest. But the solution is actually very simple, and I'm gonna teach it to you today. We're gonna get your doubles from here to here and beyond. And you'll find that your timekeeping improves, your endurance increases, and your playing overall gets smoother as a result, which is really cool and a lot of fun. This is gonna be really cool. You can do this. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that they can nail songs and sound awesome with a band and be that drummer that other people want to jam with. And hey, while you're here, and especially if you're new, I have a totally free gift for you in the description. This is my 3-part practice routine for busy drummers PDF guide. It's just a simple PDF that outlines for you a 30-minute practice routine that just contains the most important critical things that you actually need to be practicing to get the most results. And so if you've been struggling going all over the internet and YouTube, finding all these millions of exercises and things to practice, and you feel like you're not making progress because you're just overwhelmed and you're stuck, you're like, I don't have time to practice all this stuff anyways. Hey, I'm with you there. We don't have time to practice everything. You could practice the millions of things, but then you'd have no life. So we've got to streamline this. We've got to condense it. This guide does that for you and tells you, hey, here's the things to practice as far as hand technique goes. Here's the coordination things to practice, so you're freeing your limbs. Here's the music and listening things to practice, so that you're developing your ear and you're getting really good at playing songs. Focus on each of those 3 categories and you grow like crazy. This guide has helped out so many drummers and it's gonna help you too. So go grab it, totally free in the description. All right, let's dive into today's lesson. So if your doubles look like what I showed you a minute ago, where everything's just kind of stiff, believe it or not, this is an incredibly common struggle. And I would be willing to bet every one of us has passed through that stage of doubles at some point. There was a time when my doubles looked like that, and it seems like every student of mine that I've worked with, whose videos I've watched, or who I've worked with one-on-one, at some point that is what's going on with their doubles. And it's very interesting. Really, the core problem here is that you're choking out the initial stick height of the first stroke of your doubles, which results in uneven, sloppy doubles. If you're like, Steven, wait, what are you talking about? It'll make sense. I'm gonna show you exactly what's going on here. But so many of my students run into this issue, and time again, the solution is so simple. And so really our simple solution, our big idea, where we're going today, is if you allow your stick to fully rebound initially, so the very first time you hit the drum or hit the pad to play the doubles, that very first stroke, if you allow that stick to fully rebound initially, you'll get more volume and energy for the actual doubles, for that second note. The second note that's the 2 for the price of 1, that second free note. And what does that mean? This means louder, faster doubles. So if you're still like, wait, hold on, what are you talking about here? This is getting, very detailed. It's not complicated. I'm going to show you. So our action steps today, really, we've got just 3 simple steps we're going to go through. And what we actually want to do is use singles to improve our doubles. And here's a tip. A lot of times, almost all the time, it seems like, if there's an issue going on with your doubles, odds are there's also an issue going on with your singles. And most of the time, if you get your singles squared away and your singles you've mastered singles, you're probably not going to really have any problems with doubles. But so many times when we have issues showing up in doubles or paradiddles or molar or other, more advanced hand techniques, a lot of times the root issue is actually in the singles. And so by taking a step back and examining the singles, we can usually solve a lot. And so really that's what we're doing today. We're going to start off here in step 1 by practicing slow singles, just one hand. Just pick a hand, whichever hand, one hand. And we're going to play very slow singles. Now here's the key. You've got to make sure that the stick is fully rebounding. When you hit your pad, your snare, whatever, make sure the stick fully rebounds. This is so simple, but yet what's happening if we examine the bad doubles, our example of bad doubles. What's happening here? I'm hitting the pad and the stick's not rebounding. I'm hitting it and it's staying down here, and so we're ending up with this wimpy second note. So if we can accomplish this step 1 of actually playing our singles right, by actually having a smooth rebound here, a nice smooth motion, that's actually going to fix a lot, because from here, And I don't want to skim through this step. I want you to spend as much time on this as you need to. Make sure you're getting that full rebound. But as soon as this is happening, as soon as you can hit the pad and the stick bounces up just like this, then step 2, practice allowing a natural second bounce, which creates a slow double. It creates this slow rebound-driven double, but with a lot more stick height than you probably had initially. So what we want to happen now is we hit, the stick bounces up, but then we let it drop back down. So we're getting 2 notes for the price of 1. We're playing a single, and then we're letting it bounce. Just like that. Look at the stick height there that's happening prior to that second note. It's probably bouncing up to here before I let it drop back down. Versus before, in our bad doubles example, we were doing this. We were being stiff, and we were being very heavy-handed and gripping too stiffly, and so we were choking out the rebound, so we were ending up with a really wimpy second note. But now if we allow that initial rebound to happen, suddenly we've got some momentum. We've got this energy going on here with the stick. We've created this motion. We've set into motion this whole movement of the stick that allows us to get a more powerful second note. And that's without using any fingers or wrist. We'll talk a little about that in a moment. We're still just using rebound. And so step 3, just gradually go a little bit faster, getting comfortable with this and making sure that as you go faster, you're not choking it out. Because yes, as we go faster, yes, that stick height does lessen. Eventually, at this tempo, you've got the better view from the camera right down here than I do from up here. But you can tell me how high the stick is bouncing. I think it's bouncing to about right here. That's still way higher than our bad doubles bounce way down here where we were doing. So we still want to have, again, no fingers assisting, no extra wrist. This is a fully 2 for the price of 1 rebound-driven double. And so that's what we want happening. And then you can practice this with either hand and then start to alternate back and forth. It's critical that you're able to do these slow rebound-driven doubles. And a lot of times this trips up students because they're like, well, what's the point in doing these slow rebound-driven doubles because I want to play louder and faster, and that wasn't the title of this video, right? That's what you want to do. You want to play doubles louder and faster. I do too, and that's a big goal. Why is it so important that we go slow? Well, if you skip over this step of doing the very slow, open, big stick height, rebound-driven doubles, what ends up happening is you're setting yourself up for this whole mentality of stiff and pressing down doubles, so that as you get faster, you end up with and you just, maybe it kind of works, but you end up working a lot harder than you need to. But if you start off with this very rebounding, high stick height, then already you're establishing this mindset of saying, you know what, I'm going to relax. I'm going to allow more upward motion and not press down. I'm going to get the feeling of allowing rebound to work for me. And then here's the really cool thing. This is really the ultimate reason why this is so important. I mentioned using fingers eventually. In order to go loud and fast, you have to use fingers. In my example back there at the beginning of good doubles compared to our bad doubles, my fingers were definitely doing a little bit of work. If I'm playing this, there's a lot of finger work happening. Here's the thing. If you skip over this whole loose, relaxed, rebound-driven doubles, and you try to skip to using fingers, that's what too many of my students have tried doing. And that's where I always have to step in and be like, wait a second, if you're trying to use fingers too soon before getting the rebound going, your fingers actually can't do much, because look at this. If you play that initial stroke, but it doesn't bounce and it chokes out right here, your fingers can do a little bit of something to snap the stick down, but not nearly as much as if you allow a full rebound. The stick's up here, now your fingers can snap the stick down, bam! You get so much more power. Does that make sense? So if you have the rebound and the stick motion, your fingers have way more to work with, and when they snap the stick down, you get 10 times the power, and therefore the volume, and therefore the evenness and the smoothness in your doubles. I'll say it again, I don't want anybody to miss that. This is so important. If you're choking it out like that, then that means you only have this amount of stick height and motion to work with for that second note, which means all your fingers can do is that. your fingers can snap the stick down, but there's just not much possibility for volume when the stick height's only like 3 or 4 inches. But if you have some stick height, look at that. It bounces up, snap it down with finger. And so you can go wrist, rebound, fingers. And so suddenly, the weight of responsibility is not fully on your fingers, it's also on the motion, and then your fingers are able to assist that. And so if you're doing all the finger workouts, and you're like, I'm working out the fingers, but I just can't get them to work with my doubles, and my doubles aren't even though I've got the finger strength, that's probably why. You have to have the motion and the rebound in order to then use the fingers and apply the fingers to the doubles. And so that could be the disconnect that's been going on here, causing you to have the sloppy doubles. That's why it's so critical that you make sure you can go and do this first. Rebound driven, relaxed doubles. Once that can happen, then we can start talking about bringing in the fingers. So that kind of brings us to, okay, what's next? What about finger and wrist strength? But before we get there, I want you to pause at this point. Question for you, do your slow doubles look like this right now? Because if you're not able to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you to pause the video and review the last few minutes and go through those action steps. Make sure you can get that happening before moving on to finger strengthening and kind of moving on to the next steps. Now, we've got other lessons here on the channel that go a lot more in depth with finger workouts, finger strength, and all of that. And so it's kind of beyond where we want to go today. But we'll briefly move through that. Once you've got your rebound-driven doubles happening nice and slow, then we can talk about finger and wrist strength, because obviously that is important. And if you're going to play smooth, even doubles, you can't just rely on rebound, because what starts to happen as you get faster it starts to turn into that, which is not good. So that's where wrist and fingers have to help out as you go faster if you're playing loudly. Now, if you're going soft, if you're playing softly, you can do very little finger. If you try to just use rebound, like literally just rely on the rebound, if you get softer as you get faster, you can make that work and it's almost zero effort. But if we want to play them loudly as we get faster, well, that's where we have to put in some work. So yes, wrist and finger strength do play a part in this, but that comes after rebound and motion. So the rebound and motion has to be established, then you're ready to bring in fingers. So just some next steps here to be thinking about and be working on as you're beginning to apply the finger strength. Step 1, do the French grip finger workout. Basically, we're just gripping with a thumbs up kind of grip so that we can focus our driving the stick with our fingers. So instead of, with a normal American or German grip, we're using some wrist, but we can't really use much wrist when we grip this way. Instead, we have to use fingers. So this is a really useful grip for specifically working out fingers. And so just sit here and go like this. We're literally just twisting the stick back and forth. You can start off by doing this just with an index and thumb fulcrum. Bring in that middle finger there and practice twisting it back and forth without moving the wrist. Just establish this twisting motion and then use the other fingers to help assist that. Make sure you've got a full motion. You don't need to go that fast. Work on just getting this comfortable, and as you do this, you'll start getting your fingers working and they'll start building strength and agility. And of course, you'll build some forearm strength because really that's what's powering the fingers as you do this. And then step 2, apply this to standard American grip. So like we talked about a minute ago, if you have a very low stick height, it's kind of hard to really get fingers to work, but at the same time, they don't work with a really high stick height, and so it's kind of this in-between where fingers can really do something, especially when you turn to American grip. But if you've practiced this a bunch, you've got this happening, you can then rotate your hand to an American grip and use the fingers to power the stick like this. And so if you can make that connection there to driving the stick with your fingers, just a medium stick height, eighth notes around 140 to 160. I don't have a metronome going, but we're somewhere around that. 150. Again, it's eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's a good tempo to get this started. And as you go a little faster, you can let the stick height drop a little bit. I'm bouncing up to about right here. It's maybe a 6, 7, 8-inch stick height. So the idea is just train your fingers to work with American grip, and that'll help you more directly apply this to your doubles. Because step number 3, practice using fingers to reinforce that second note of your doubles. So again, focusing on one hand at a time. That means we're doing what I already broke down a few minutes ago of dropping the stick, letting it bounce, finger snapping it down. So wrist stroke, rebound, finger snap it down. You could also think of it as open, closed. Your hand is going open, closed. Like you're reaching out to shake somebody's hand, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed. So it's one wrist motion. We kind of refer to it as a 2 for the price of 1 because it's one wrist motion, but we're getting 2 strokes and fingers are assisting that second stroke. Now, getting that down does take time, and also when you do it more slowly, kind of an alternate approach you could take, kind of another road you could take here, is starting off with just saying, I'm going to play 2 singles. So just wrist, wrist. And try doing that, 2 loud wrist strokes, bump, bump. I'm not trying to hit super hard, but just a full rebound. Well, as you get faster, then try transitioning to, instead of using so much wrist for that second note, you've got the inertia, the momentum from the first, so now try using your fingers for the second. Right there around that tempo is where it starts to make sense. If we're going right here, that can be wrist, 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 but then we start to cross over right here, right around about 120. If we're doing 16ths, around 120 is where we cross over this threshold where it starts to make a lot more sense to go wrist, fingers, open, closed. And of course, that completely applies to when you're doing the full doubles back and forth, where once you get to around 120, that's where it starts to make sense to really use the fingers. Now, we have other lessons here on the channel going in depth about using wrists for medium tempo doubles, using fingers for faster doubles. There's just so many things, sub-topics we can go into here based on the tempo and the volume of the doubles, and that's why it's such a complex rudiment to really master. I say complex even though it's simple, but we have to slightly adjust what we're doing based on our tempo and our volume in order to smoothly go from slow to fast, fast to slow. And so there's other resources here to help you out with this, but I want your big takeaway from today to be get that slow rebound happening so that you have that initial stick height, so that there's momentum, inertia here in your motion. That way, when you bring in fingers, they can actually do something and they can actually work, and you can end up with much louder, faster doubles, so that then as you go faster, we can start bringing in a little bit of extra wrist. Right here, we can go wrist, 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 wrist. Then we can start transitioning to fingers. And it all starts with that rebound. So that's where you've got to start with this. If you practice this, if you take action on this and you do what I'm teaching you, then you're going to get tremendous results. You just have to be patient with it. Your doubles will get louder. You'll have more capability for speed. You'll break past speed walls and speed barriers because that stiffness will go away. They'll be smoother and more even. Your doubles will sound more like singles. Really, that's the ultimate goal, right? For your for your doubles to sound just like singles. That's what's going to start happening. You're going to have better timekeeping. Even your molar timekeeping is going to get better and smooth. Any kind of quick timekeeping pattern, like whether you're doing molar or you're doing something like if you're getting into like any kind of jazz Latin timekeeping, doubles help so much with the technique for doing that well. And overall, here's the biggest win, I think. Better endurance in general. Overall, you're building hand strength and dexterity and agility, all those words, all that good stuff where you're building the wrist strength and you're coordinating your wrists with your fingers, with the smoothness, with the rebound. All these things start working together, and that overall gives you much better endurance across the board with any kind of fast playing, loud playing. Huge win. And so that alone is worth working on this. So take action on this. Go through those steps, go back and review this lesson as much as you need to. Keep coming back to this and check out some of the other lessons going more in depth with kind of other tempos and other volumes and other parts of this whole doubles discussion of mastering doubles. But hey, question for you before you go. Tell me in the comments, why do you want to master doubles? What is your end goal? Because a lot of times the disconnect with doubles, the pushback is, well, why do I really need to know doubles? Hopefully I've presented that today. Maybe your reason for mastering doubles is just because you want to do it. You want to accomplish it. You want to master that rudiment. Or maybe you're like, I know that doubles improves my hand-to-hand coordination. I know that it's improving my hands and my endurance. Maybe that's your simple reason. Maybe there's a song that has a double stroke roll in it, or maybe some quick, you're wanting to get into jazz timekeeping, which is a similar technique to doubles. And so maybe that's why. But either way, I want you thinking about that. Why do you want to master doubles? It's always critical to have that why to help keep you motivated behind all of the practicing that you do day to day and week to week. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Man, this has been such a nitty-gritty lesson with so much, packed here into, this 22 minutes or so. And so I hope this has been really helpful. I hope this has been valuable. Know that, as always, when you take action, when you decide, I'm going to do this, you can do this. You can accomplish this. You can master your doubles. Just stay patient. Stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.